Hey, 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 this is Jennifer Allwood, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, where we talk about creating a beautiful home and building a creative business. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to have you guys here with me again this week so we can chit chat about all things that are family, faith, and creative based. And I'm super excited to talk to you today. We're going to do something a little bit different this week. I'm going to read to you today a portion of a note that I got from one of my faithful podcast listeners in hopes that because Brittany has this question, I'm guessing many of you have this question as well. And so I'm just going to dive right in here. I got a really sweet email this week. And first of all, you guys, when you send me emails, just know that I read every single one of them. I try really hard to answer as many of those as possible, but I do at least read every single one of them. Miss Vicky, my faithful administrative assistant, makes sure that I get all of them. So thank you. So I got a great message from Brittany, and Brittany has a question, and I hear this question often in my coaching groups, and because I hear it often, I believe that that's a good sign that there's way more people in the world who could learn from this podcast than just Brittany. So here was Brittany's question. She said that she's a creative. She loves to create and loves to learn. And my podcast about being a serial learner really spoke to her. So if you guys have not listened to that podcast, please go back and do so. It was a great podcast on how sometimes us creative people get into this weird loop where we're just kind of almost addicted to learning, and we forget to actually go ahead and implement, babe. You need to go ahead and implement. And so we're like serial learners. That's all we do is we just keep learning, and we never pause and implement. And the implementation part is the thing that's going to change your business. That's the thing that's going to change your future. That's the thing that's going to make 2018 so much different than 2017 is the implementation. Because who cares if you know how to speak Japanese, German, and Swedish if you never actually use it, right? I mean, like, it's great to have knowledge, but you actually want to implement that stuff. And so she listened to my podcast on serial learning and said it really spoke to her heart. She said she's lost on knowing what it is to do. She sat down and listed out things that speak to who she is and what she's really talented at. And she did tell me the one thing that she feels like she's being called to do is modern painting on canvas. She said this has never been part of any of her businesses, but she loves to do it, and she needs to know if she should pursue it or not. Then she goes on to say she wants to be original and to create something no one else is doing and that no one can imitate, to express herself and her gifts. But there's so much noise on Pinterest and with other makers and social media. So she just says, ugh, I'm frustrated, and she needs some guidance. So Brittany, thank you so much for just being really transparent and just bearing your soul in this email. And I appreciate you so much, and just pray that God's going to give you some really great ideas. But I wanted to talk to you all about this topic, okay? All about this topic, because here's what I have found. So many creative people would love to start a business. They're just not sure what to start. They get stuck on that piece. They're like, well, I'm good at this, and I'm good at this, and I'm good at this, and I'm good at this. And so how do I pick one, right? And so I want to help you guys with some little tips on how you can actually pick one. I don't want to call this a creative's curse, okay? Because I don't want to speak that over any of you, right? I don't want to speak that over any of you. But this is a creative person's conundrum, right? Here's the conundrum. When God was handing out creative gifts, usually he didn't just say, I'm going to give you one, I'm going to give you one, and I'm going to give you one. No, he was more like Oprah style. And he was like, and I'm giving this gift to you and you and you, and another gift to you and you and you, and another gift to you and you and you. Okay, so how many of you creative people that are listening to me right now can relate that you have more than one thing that you're good at? And here's the deal with most creative people. We're like, well, I don't really want to brag. I'm kind of okay at baking and sewing and decorating. I mean, people they ask me to come do stuff in their house, but I don't want to brag. You know, I kind of play with it. Okay, does that sound like a lot of creative people that you know, right? And it's because creative people generally have more than one talent and more than one passion. Okay, and more than one passion. And they like to really play down their gifting and pretend that it doesn't really matter. It's not as important as being a dentist. It's not as valuable as of a career, if you will, as being an astronaut or a teacher or something. And so creative people were usually multi-talented, multi-passionate, and really bad at talking about it, okay? We're really bad at talking about it. So a lot of times when you have a creative person who's like, okay, I really want to start my own business. I really want to start my own gig. I really feel like I have some giftings that I could monetize, but I don't even know where to start. And these are the kind of things that they email me and message me about. They'll say, Jennifer, I'm having a hard time picking. How do I know which one of these talents to do first? How do I decide on the one thing? And I think that a lot of times they are... a lot of times they're hoping that I have like this secret thing, right? This secret like way of knowing what it is they should do forever, that maybe there's some secret formula. And there's no secret formula, but I do have a key, okay? I do have like a tip. For those of you who are tweeters, let's tweet this, all right? The key is to find what you are passionate about that people will also pay you for. Okay, and I'm going to give you a great example. So find what you're passionate about that people are going to pay you for, because here is the deal. I could be super, uber passionate about underwater basket weaving, but the last time I checked, there was really no market for that. Like, I haven't been on Pinterest lately and seen people doing underwater basket weaving. I don't know of any classes being held on underwater basket weaving. I personally love underwater basket weaving, and I'm super passionate about it. It's all I can think about. However, even if I'm passionate about it, if people aren't willing to pay for it, you're going to starve. You're going to starve. And so, yes, that's the secret sauce right there, is finding out what you're passionate about and what people will pay you for. So when you're thinking about, okay, well, Jennifer, I'm passionate about a lot of things. Well, I realize that. So I have another couple of tips. What kinds of things do your girlfriends ask you about all the time? Like, what kinds of things are they texting you about? As I'm sitting here on this podcast, I'm getting texts from two of my very dearest friends, my friend Samantha and my friend Laura. And haven't read them yet because I'm podcasting, right? But what are the things that your friend Samantha and your friend Laura text you about? What do they ask you about? Because here is an amazing thing that God did. A lot of times he set it up so that other people will see in you and call out the talents that they see that you have that you are not walking in yet. Okay, I'm going to say that again. A lot of times God will use people in your world. He'll use the people in your world to recognize and call out the talents that you have that you just aren't utilizing yet. And so what are your friends asking you about? What's your sister-in-law asking you about over Thanksgiving? Like, you already know she's going to start asking you about painting something in her house, right? She's already going to ask you. Is that the thing that people are asking you about? Because if so, then you just need to start charging for it. And that's a whole nother podcast when we talk about how to jump from doing free to charging. And actually, I think I have a podcast on that. If so, I'll link to it on the show notes here, okay? But a lot of times the other people are key to helping us figure out what it is that we could actually get paid for. I know I have my inner circle, right? My inner circle group where people pay me. I have over 600 women in there who pay me every month to give them advice on their business, right? Can I tell you guys how that thing came about? Probably I would say, because I've had this group 2.5 years, I would say it was about maybe 3.5 years ago, back when I had an answering machine. Who knows what I'm talking about with the answering machine, okay? Where you literally like left a message. Okay, so I had an answering machine, and I got a call from some sweet, precious woman in Florida who asked me if I would start mentoring her and teaching her how to build an online audience and how to build my business through social media. I hope that woman is still following me. And if she is, I would love to give her a hug. Because I remember when I got that voicemail, I thought, what? Like, why on earth would anybody ask me to like mentor and coach them? Like, I'm a hot mess up in here. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I am winging this crap, right? I'm winging this crap. I'm throwing stuff against a wall and seeing what sticks. But other people were seeing talents in me. And this was a complete stranger. All right. This was a complete stranger. And then after the third or fourth time, I'm like, all right, Lord, what you up to here? What you up to here? So when you have a lot of talents, my friends, a lot of things that you're good at, a lot of places like that you could see that you could start at. Maybe you could start doing pottery, or you could start by painting canvases, or perhaps sewing aprons, or you also like to make jewelry. Like, what can I start at? Let me tell you just a couple of tips, okay? Sometimes, now this could sting a little, okay? This could hurt a little. And I love that line from Tosh.0. Not that I would ever watch Tosh.0, but I've heard that he says this could sting a little. Okay, this could sting a little. Here's sometimes what the problem is. The problem sometimes is that we're saying, I can't pick, or I can't figure out which one to do, because we're actually self-protecting. Okay? We're actually in self-protection mode. We're actually like, if I continue to say, oh, I can't decide, I'm so precious, I can't decide, then I never have to decide. Okay, and can I also tell you, not deciding is deciding. Okay, let me say that again. Not deciding is deciding. So when you're in this thing where you're like, I can't decide, you're actually deciding. You're deciding to put off starting a business because you're continuing to use that as an excuse. It's a way for creative people to stall. It's easier to say, I can't decide, there's so many things I could do, than to actually start the very first step of beginning. And so that's one thing, okay? That's one problem that you could have. Number two, the second problem that you could have, or maybe the way you're not looking at it correctly, okay? So you're saying, I can't decide. Honey, you don't have to decide. Did you know that if you brand you, instead of the sign you make, instead of the wreaths that you make, instead of the jewelry that you make, instead of the whatever, home decor that you're trying to sell, if you brand you as the business, baby, you can do everything that you want. You don't have to decide then. One day you feel like cooking a cake. The next day you want to paint a candlestick. The next day you want to help people figure out an outfit. You can do all of that because it's all you. You can do all of that because it's all you. So when you're thinking to yourself, I have to pick, nobody told you that. Honey, when you're in business for yourself, no one is the boss of you. No one is the boss of you. Being an entrepreneur means you're the boss of you and you get to decide what you do. Okay, so now there are things you want to take into consideration. You don't want to water down your brand too much by, raising fish and sewing aprons and planting hostas for a living, and give me something else. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, I'm trying to think of a fourth thing that sounds witty and I can't because I don't know. and so if you brand you, you can do all of those things and it still makes sense. Also, here's the thing with branding you, and this is what I am preaching on all the time in my inner circle. When you brand you, then when the whole farmhouse market is gone, because, oh, by the way, it's going to be, then when the whole, distressed furniture goes out of vogue, then when the whole, words on everything leaves, because it all will, my friends, it's all cyclical. It's everything cyclical, right? There's nothing new under the sun. It all goes out, it comes back in. It all goes out, it comes back in. So then when the seasons have changed, right? Then when the farmhouse is going out, you haven't pinned yourself down with a business name like Farmhouse Signs by Jennifer. You've actually branded you. And so it's not going to be weird then when you quit doing farmhouse signs because they're no longer selling and instead you're doing something else. So that's the second issue that I want you to be aware of. The third issue is me telling the truth, because I love you. We had a mastermind here in Kansas City last month. It was in October. So I had 44 business owners, small business owners, creatives come to Kansas City, and we had a 2-day business event where I brought in guest speakers and we talked business for 2 days, which was amazing. And it's funny because Damon, one of a couple of men in my group, he gave a little testimony about the thing, and it was funny to me what his testimony says is that that Jennifer always tells the truth, and sometimes it's hard to hear. And so this might be a little hard to hear, okay? But I feel like somebody needs to say it, and it's okay. Okay? I'm going to say it, and it's okay. Not everyone is cut out to be self-employed and an entrepreneur. And that's the honest to goodness truth. And I feel like I need to say that. Some people do really well at kind of just keeping it a hobby. And it's just a little bit of extra spending money. And they're really okay with that. They don't really want to grow the thing. And if that's you, grace, grace, grace upon grace. Not everyone's aspirations are to be ruling the DIY world. Does that make sense? And so if you are not cut out for being an entrepreneur and yet try to force yourself to be an entrepreneur, it's going to hurt, you guys. It's going to hurt. And I'm going to tell you why it's going to hurt. Because it's going to feel so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. Being an entrepreneur, forcing yourself to do things and stretch and grow and try new things and whatever else, it's not a comfortable situation for most people. All right. And so I have this whole article on my website. I actually have another podcast, and it's called 8 Ways to Know That You're Cut Out for Being a Business Owner. And I talk about things like, are you a self-starter? Okay, that's one of the 8. Because if you need someone to kind of stand behind you and kind of poke you in the back to get you out of bed in the morning and to get you moving, if you have to be reminded to get on your social media and connect with your community, it's going to be hard for you to be a business owner. It's going to hurt a little. Okay, if you easily get stuck on small decisions, it's going to be very difficult for you to grow a business to any, size. Sorry, friends, had a phone call coming in. If you have trouble with making decisions, and I'm not saying you have to make decisions like this, but if you're getting stuck on decisions for 6 months at a time, this is going to be very hard for you. Being a business owner is, because being a business owner in charge of your own business requires daily decisions that you have to make. And I know you're thinking, how many decisions can there be? How hard can it be? Honey, you need to see your business at a bigger size and a little bit further down the road than just today. Okay? Because it's not always going to be where it is today. And so to recap those, the problem could be that you're not picking what to start with in a business because you're trying to self-protect and you're trying to stall. Okay? That could be number 1. Number 2, you've forgotten that if you brand you don't have to pick. You don't have to pick. So don't forget that, okay? And number 3, you may not be cut out to be a business owner. You may just want to keep this a hobby with just hobby money, and that's fine too. Trisha Dixon says she is ready to roll and needs to choose and step out. Awesome. And so, Brittany, I just appreciate the email that you sent me so much, where you kind of, bared your soul. And my hope for you is that you will force yourself to make some decisions, and that you will force yourself to look at, okay, what thing can I not do? What thing can I not talk about? What thing do I want to wake up every morning and hit the ground running for? Because that's where you're going to have the success in your business, and that's the kind of thing that's going to last long term. If you're forcing yourself to get on the sign making merry-go-round right now because everybody's making signs and they're doing well, but the truth is you hate signs, and if you have to make another sign, you're just going to hurl. Like, if that's where you're at and your passion has plummeted for signs, it's going to be so hard for you to continue pushing that business in a direction that's going to make it successful. And so, Brittany, figure out, babe, what it is that you're so passionate about that people will pay you for, and do that thing. Do that thing. And that is my advice for all of you. If you can't figure out what to do, sometimes you just got to pick something and start. You got to pick something and start. Everybody starts somewhere. And the truth is, you are going to change. What are the statistics that people change what they do like 7 times? Over the course of their life. And so you will change. Remember that very few decisions on this side of heaven are permanent. Okay, very few. And so whatever you start with doing today may not be what you're still doing in a year. And it probably certainly won't be doing exactly the same thing in 5. And that's okay. As a creative person, God didn't intend you to stay stuck doing one thing forever and ever. Amen. That's not how you were wired. You were wired to get excited about the next new trend and the next new paint colors and the next new DIY craze and the next new repurposing thing. That is what you were designed to do. And so as you guys try to determine what it is that you want to do from here on out, give yourself some grace, but also quit stalling. My encouragement to you is to pick and to get started. And then once you have gotten started, I encourage you to listen and to join my Inner Circle group. You can find that at themagicbrushinc.com/inner circle. And this is where I coach over 600 business owners every single month on how to grow their business. But the majority of these people have already begun and started. Some of you email me all the time and you want to know if you're a good fit for that group. You're definitely a good fit for that group if you have decided and are beginning. Okay. One foot in front of the other is how you build a business. One bite at a time is how you eat an elephant. I know it seems like there's all the things that need done, but the very first thing that needs done is deciding. So bless you guys as you make decisions on your business and as you try to determine the next steps. And thank you for being here on this podcast and listening to me week after week. I appreciate you so, so much. And if you are already a business owner who is successful, but you know some women who are maybe at home and they're pondering what their calling is and they're pondering what they should do next, would you share this podcast with them? I would appreciate it so much. And I hope that even if it just touches one woman today and gets her motivated to pick and to go, I'll feel like my job here is done. So again, thank you guys for listening to the podcast. If you have a chance and could hop on over to iTunes and leave a review for the Jennifer Allwood Show, I would much appreciate it. It would absolutely make my day. And so bless you guys. Until next week, stay creative.